Chapter 1, Taken Captive. Kaya dug her fists into the sides of her waist and stretched. Her back was sore from bending over to pick huckleberries. Since first light, she and the other girls had moved along the hillside, plucking ripe berries from the bushes and dropping them into the baskets that they wore at their waists. Now the sun was high overhead. It was time to sort and dry the berries they picked in the cooler hours. Kaya thought dried berries were good, but ripe ones were a feast. When she thought no one was looking, she sneaked a handful for herself. Look, Magpie's stealing berries, Little Fawn cried. If she eats too many now, we won't have enough when winter comes. She gave Kaya a teasing grin. Kaya winced. Not a single day went by without someone calling her by her awful nickname, Magpie. Earlier in the summer, while visiting her father's family in Wallowa, she'd gone off to race her horse when she was supposed to be taking care of her little brothers. Whip Woman had told Kaya she was no more responsible than a thieving magpie. When all the children were switched for Kaya's disobedience, they began calling her Magpie. Each time Kaya heard that nickname, it sounded like Whip Woman's switch. It was now late summer, and Kaya was back in Salmon River country, where her family had joined her mother's band of Nimiipu. They had traveled upstream and set up camp to pick berries in the higher country. Her father and many of the other men had gone even farther into the mountains to scalp the deer and elk trails. It was time for the hunts. Soon the men would bring back as much game as they could so that everyone would have plenty of meat for the winter. With that dried meat, fish, and berries, there would be good provisions for the cold season to come. Kaya untied the basket from her belt and spread leaves over the berries to keep them from falling out of the basket. She set her basket with those her mother and her big sister, Brown Deer, had filled. All the women and girls had been berry picking. Even the youngest girls wore little baskets, though they were allowed to eat more berries than they saved. Kaya's grandmother was loading baskets onto her horse. Kautsa glanced over her shoulder at Kaya, then nodded at a little girl with her tiny basket. Remember when you were that young? She asked Kaya. Remember how you'd run to give me the first few berries you picked? Kaya smiled, glad to be reminded of those happy days. I remember you always praised me for my berries, she said. You said I'd be a good picker one day. And you are, Kautsa said. She hung the last bags onto her saddle, then patted her horse. Leading it, she began to walk with the others down to the teepees set in the meadow near the stream. Kaya walked alongside Kautsa, matching her strides to her grandmother's long ones. Heat rose from the stony path and shimmered around her legs. The sun's hot, isn't it? She said. Kautsa agreed. The day is hot and our work is hard, but we need to pick berries so we won't go hungry this winter. Kaya studied the thick growths of lodgepole pines that ring the meadow below. Could Speaking Rain and I sleep outside the teepee tonight? She asked. I think we'd be cooler in the meadow. We'll be cool enough inside, Kautsa said. I want you two near me. With many of our men away, we'll be safer if we stay close together. The boys are keeping the herd close by, too. Look, there's your horse with the others. Kaya shaded her eyes. She quickly identified Steps High by the star on her forehead. Kaya's horse was grazing at the edge of the herd with some mares and their foals. Perhaps Steps High sensed Kaya's approach, for she lifted her head and whinnied. Kautsa halted her horse. She picked some large leaves from a thimbleberry plant beside the trail, then sprinkled a pinch of dried roots on the earth in thanks for what she had taken. She used the leaves to wipe sweat from Kaya's forehead and then to dry her own face. Go sit in the shade with Speaking Rain for a little while, she said. The heat has tired you. Kaya found Speaking Rain sitting under a pine tree. Speaking Rain was blind, so she stayed in the camp with the elderly women and men. She was weaving a bare grass basket that Kautsa had begun for her. I brought you some huckleberries, little sister, Kaya said. She placed a handful of berries into Speaking Rain's outstretched hands. Since Speaking Rain's parents had died, she lived with Kaya's family and been a sister to her. Kaya sat beside Speaking Rain in the shade of the pine tree. Our dogs chased 2 black bears out of the berry bushes this morning, Kaya said. Everyone wants these berries, Speaking Rain said. She ate hers one by one, making them last as long as possible. As she munched, she tipped her head toward Kaya. Why do you sound so sad? Kaya knew she couldn't hide anything from Speaking Rain. Maybe because Speaking Rain couldn't see, she heard everything sharply. Little Fawn caught me sneaking huckleberries, Kaya admitted with a sigh. She called me a magpie again. I hope that nickname will fade soon, Speaking Rain said. Again she cocked her head, listening. Isn't that your horse whinnying to you? Go to her. Nicknames don't mean a thing to a horse. Gratefully, Kaya squeezed Speaking Rain's hand. Speaking Rain always understood her. As Kaya walked toward the herd, she whistled her horse to her side. Steps High rubbed her head against Kaya's shoulder. Her horse's muzzle was as soft as the finest buckskin. Hello, beautiful one, Kaya whispered against the horse's sleek neck. It always comforted Kaya to stroke her horse. As Steps High nuzzled her, Kaya glanced back at the clearing where women spread the berries on tulle mats to dry in the sun. She saw her 2 little brothers bouncing on a crooked cedar tree, pretending to ride a horse. Nearby, little girls played with their buckskin dolls. Dogs lolled beside the teepees, their tongues out. In the wide meadow, boys rode herd on the horses. Thin clouds drifted toward the Bitterroot Mountains to the east. Stay close to be safe, Kautza had reminded her. Kautza was wise in these things, and Kaya had heard that warning all her life. But right now, this quiet valley seemed the safest place she could imagine. Listen, Kautza said in a low voice. The dogs are growling. Wake up! Kaya tried to wake it in the deep of night. She heard Kautza's sharp command, but sleep was like a hand pushing her down. Nearby, some dogs growled and began to bark fiercely. Kaya sat up and rubbed her eyes. What was wrong? Her mother peeked out the door of the dark teepee, then ducked back inside. Strangers in our camp, Itza said. Get dressed, quick, enemies! Enemies in their camp. The warning was a jolt of lightning. Swiftly, Kaya was on her feet. Her heart pounding, she struggled into her dress. Kautza, Brown Deer, and Speaking Rain were doing the same. They all tugged on their moccasins and crept out of the teepee. Kautza pushed Speaking Rain and the twin boys ahead of her. Brown Deer picked up one of the little boys. Itza picked up the other one. Follow me, Itza whispered. Kaya, take Speaking Rain to the woods. We'll hide there. Crouching, Itza ran for the trees, Brown Deer and Kautza right on her heels. The moon was rising above the trees bordering the clearing. Kaya could see women, children, and old people hurrying from the teepees for safety in the woods. Some men ran toward the edge of the camp where dark figures ducked between the horses tethered there. Raiders! Enemy raiders! They slipped into camp hoping to make off with the best horses, but the dogs had given them away. Kaya's mouth was dry with alarm. She clasped Speaking Rain's hand tightly, but instead of following Itza into the woods as she'd been told, she went in the direction of the herd. Where was Steps High? Would raiders try to steal her horse? Kaya saw the woman named Swan circling head towards the horses too. A raider was about to cut the rawhide line that tethered her fine horse. Swan circling had as much courage as any warrior. She stabbed at the raider with her digging stick. She knocked him away from her horse, which reared and whinnied in panic. The raider leaped onto the back of another horse he'd already cut loose. With a fierce cry, he swung the horse around and galloped straight through camp, coming right at Kaya and Speaking Rain. With a gasp of fear, Kaya tried to run out of his way, pulling Speaking Rain behind her. Too late! Kaya threw herself onto her stomach, dragging Speaking Rain down with her. The raider jumped his horse over them and plunged on. Kaya struggled to her knees. Now other raiders raced through the camp toward the herd. They lay low on their horses, trying to stampede the herd so no one could ride after them. The horses snorted and screamed with alarm. A few broke away. With Steps High with them, Kaya whirled around. Nimipu men with bows and arrows were running to cut off the raiders. Arrows hissed by. Kaya clasped Speaking Rain's hand again and ran for the safety of the woods. A horse brushed against her, almost knocking her down. She felt someone seize her hair, then grasp her arm. Speaking Rain's hand was yanked from hers. A raider swung Kaya roughly behind him onto his horse. She sank her teeth into his arm, but he broke her hold with a slap. Kaya looked back for Speaking Rain. Another raider was dragging her onto his horse. Speaking Rain! Kaya cried, but her cry was lost in the tumult. The raiders raced after the herd, which ran full out now. The Nimipu men gave chase on foot, but they were quickly outdistanced. Arrows hissed by. Kaya clasped Speaking Rain's hand again and ran for the safety of the woods. Terrified, Kaya clung to the raider's back. The herd was thundering down the valley, the raiders in the rear. The night was filled with boiling dust. Hoofbeats shook the ground and echoed in Kaya's chest. She caught a glimpse of Steps High running with the others. Her horse had been stolen by the enemies. She was their captive too, and so was Speaking Rain. And it was Kaya's fault. All that night, and on through the next day and night, the raiders ran the stolen horses eastward. When their mounts tired, they paused only briefly before jumping onto fresh horses and going on. Kaya knew they wanted to get out of Nimipu country before they were caught. Because the raiders didn't rest, Kaya and Speaking Rain couldn't rest either. The mountains and the valleys below went by in a blur. In her fatigue, Kaya sometimes thought she saw a blue lake in the sky. Sometimes she thought the distant rolling hills were huge buffalo. And sometimes she did fall asleep, her head bumping the raider's back. He slapped her legs to waken her. She thought then about jumping off the running horse, but she knew she'd be injured or killed on the narrow stony trail. Maybe it would be better to die than to be a captive, Kaya thought, but she couldn't abandon Speaking Rain. When the sun was high overhead, the raiders finally stopped to rest. They left a scout to guard their trail and took the herd to a grassy spot by a little lake where the horses could feed and drink. Kaya saw Steps High standing by the water with the other foam-flecked horses. Their heads were down and their chests heaved from the punishing journey. How she wished she could go to her horse. When the raiders gathered to share dried meat, Kaya got a better look at them. They were young, bold, and proud of themselves for stealing so many fine horses. She thought they spoke the language of enemies from Buffalo Country. Though Kaya couldn't understand their words, she knew that they boasted of their success. Perhaps they were proud, too, that they had driven the herd all the way through Nimipu Country to the northern trail through the Bitterroot Mountains. The raider who'd ceased Speaking Rain offered her some of the buffalo meat. When she didn't respond, he waved his hand in front of her eyes that made a noise of disgust. Kaya knew he was angry that the girl he captured for a slave was blind. He pushed her down beside Kaya and stalked back to the circle of men. Kaya held her close. Speaking Rain leaned against Kaya's shoulder. "Where are we?" she whispered. "Somewhere on the trail to Buffalo Country," Kaya whispered back. She put some of the food she'd been given into Speaking Rain's hand. "What will happen to us?" Speaking Rain's voice quavered. Though Kaya trembled with fatigue, she kept her voice steady. "Don't you remember what happened when enemies from the south stole some of our horses? Our father and the other warriors got ready for a raid, and the drummers beat the drums. All the women sang songs to send off our warriors with courage. Our warriors followed the enemies over the mountains and brought back all our horses. Our warriors will make a raid on these men too. They'll take you and me back home with them, and they'll take back all of our horses as well." "Are you sure?" Speaking Rain murmured. Kaya whispered. "I'm sure," but in her heart, Kaya was far from certain. Already, they traveled a long way over the mountains. Tota and the other men might not have returned to the berry-picking camp yet. When they did, the raiders might have already left the mountains and hidden themselves securely in the country to the east. What would happen to Kaya and Speaking Rain and Steps High then? Kaya squeezed Speaking Rain's hand. We have to be strong, little sister. Speaking Rain agreed. We'll be strong. One of the raiders motioned for the girls to lie down. He tied Kaya's legs to Speaking Rain's with a length of rawhide so they couldn't run away. Lying huddled together, they softly prayed to Hunyawat, asking for strength. Kaya was exhausted, but her head buzzed with fears. I'm afraid to sleep, she whispered to Speaking Rain. Me too, Speaking Rain whispered back. She put her cheek against Kaya's shoulder. Remember the lullaby that Kautsa used to sing to us? Kaya nodded. Then, to her surprise, Speaking Rain began to sing gently. Ha no ni. She's my precious one, my own dear little precious one. Kaya glanced at the raiders. Would they be angry at Speaking Rain's song? The men were lying down to rest. One glanced at Speaking Rain and shrugged as if he had nothing to fear from the lullaby. Lulled by Speaking Rain's gentle voice, Kaya slept.